Standing up to the madness, ordinary heroes in extraordinary times, which I think is very relevant to you here today. This remarkable group of young people who have gathered, this historic moment. Veteran soldiers from Iraq and Afghanistan who are daring to speak out of your pain, teach us something in this country that our media has whitewashed for all too long. Today on Democracy Now!, we broadcast from the room just outside of this chamber. And we began with a quote of a politician who I wouldn't describe as brave today, but in 1971, his words were powerful as he spoke before the Senate. It was a young John Kerry. He said, several months ago in Detroit, we had an investigation at which over 150 honorably discharged and many very highly decorated veterans testified to war crimes committed in Southeast Asia, not isolated incidents, but crimes committed on a day-to-day basis with a full awareness of officers at all levels of command. It's impossible to describe to you exactly what did happen in Detroit, he said. The emotions in the room, the feelings of the men who were reliving their experiences in Vietnam, but they did. They relived the absolute horror of what this country, in a sense, made them do. John Kerry went on to say in 1971 about what happened in Detroit. They told the stories of times they'd personally raped, cut off ears, cut off heads, taped wires from portable telephones to human genitals and turned up the power, cut off limbs, blown up bodies, randomly shot at civilians, razed villages in a fashion reminiscent of Genghis Khan. Shot cattle and dogs for fun, poisoned food stocks, and generally ravaged the countryside of South Vietnam, in addition to the normal ravage of war and the normal and very particular ravaging which is done by the applied bombing power of this country. He went on to say, we called this investigation the Winter Soldier investigation. The term Winter Soldier, a play on words of Thomas Paine's in 1776, when he spoke of the Sunshine Patriot and Summertime Soldiers who deserted at Valley Forge because the going was rough. And we who've come here to Washington have come here because we feel we have to be winter soldiers now. We could come back to this country and we could be quiet. We could hold our silence. We could not tell what went on in Vietnam. But we feel because of what threatens this country, the fact that the crimes threaten it, not Reds, not redcoats, but the crimes which we're committing are what threaten it, and we have to speak out. That was a brave young person like the people today who, despite what could happen as a result of you speaking, are speaking because you have such an important lesson to teach this country. Where is the media that broadcasts your voice? And where has it been over these years when the decisions were being made to lead us into war on not one, but two and more fronts? I think a critical part of the story of how we got involved in this invasion is also the story of the consolidation of the media today and how we have to challenge that every step of the way. The media are the most powerful institutions on earth, more powerful than any bomb, more powerful than any missile, and the Pentagon's deployed the media, and we have to take it back. The clear channeling of America is a threat to a democratic society, and it matters. It matters when you have the South Carolina Broadcaster of the Year on a Clear Channel station who dares to express an anti-war point of view, and before you know it, she is forced off the air. Doesn't want to go to the pro-war rally as the network also happens to sponsor. It matters when you have not just one channel or one network or one station, but in the lead up to the invasion of Iraq, the 4 major nightly newscasts, ABC Nightly News, NBC Nightly News, CBS, and even the PBS NewsHour, all 4, in the 2 weeks around Colin Powell when he was Secretary of State, giving that speech, that push for war, February 5th, 2003, that he has later called a stain on his career. That 2-week period and the 4 major nightly newscasts, 393 interviews done around war, and only 3 of them were with anti-war leaders. That is not even mainstream media anymore. Because at that time, and it continues today only to grow stronger, it wasn't a fringe minority who was opposed to the war. It wasn't even a silent majority, but the silenced majority, silenced by the corporate media. Yes, we have to take it back, because when the media acts as a conveyor belt for the lies, not only of the Bush administration, because yes, the Democrats enabled the Republicans in this, the leading presidential candidates from 2004, not to mention some from 2008, voted to authorize war as well. But when the parties join together and the media simply brings us the spectrum between the parties, and so often that spectrum is so narrow you could miss it altogether, we have to challenge it, because mainstream America is outside that spectrum. We need a media that brings us the word of people like you all over this country, not just in this room, because you do represent the majority. You just wouldn't know it if you watched that small circle of pundits on television who know so little about so much, explaining the world to us and getting it so wrong. And the reason it matters is these are not just private corporations using their private property, and we really don't have a say over that. They are using a national treasure. That's what the public airwaves are. And they have a responsibility to bring out the full diversity of opinion or lose their licenses. It is serious. It is extremely serious, because the lies take lives, as you in this room know perhaps more than any other. Your friends, your family, the people some of you met in Iraq and Afghanistan. It matters when we have a media that allows for a discussion to make the most critical decisions. That is the way we can communicate with each other in this country, is through the media. I see it as a huge kitchen table that stretches across the country, across the globe, that we all sit around and debate and discuss the most important issues of the day. And if we don't, if we can't, well, we have to challenge the obstacles in our way.